Everyone, it's Marco Brown. I wanted to talk with the lawyers out there today and give a little pro tip, have a discussion about debt. Debt's a huge thing for us attorneys. Almost none of us, when we go to law school, have a sufficient amount of money to pay for it. We take out loans. We almost never get a sufficient amount of scholarships to pay for it either because we're just not that bright, at least I wasn't. So we end up with a large amount of debt at the end of law school because law school has become so insanely expensive. And we talk that's a whole other deal why that is, but it has a lot to do with just administration bloat. But anyway, we almost always get to the end of that process and we have tons and tons of debt. I personally had about $160,000, $170,000 at the end of law school. I paid for my JD, paid for my wife's master's program as well. We're just swimming in it, man. Clerked for a year after law school, went and worked for a big shop down in New Mexico. I think I made $65,000 my first year and then decided to open my own firm. And I can tell you that when I decided to open my own firm and that debt was there, man, it was just a huge rock on my back. Every day I thought about it, just trailed me around like a dog. It was terrible. I did everything I could to minimize my payments. For the first 8 years, I had student loan debt. So we deferred, we paid income-based repayment. We tried to play every game in the book to make things work, and nothing worked. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger over time because we just didn't deal with the problem. We just put the problem off. And that is what I want to encourage attorneys not to do. I want to encourage them instead to deal with the problem head on. And it wasn't until 2015 when things were not going well in my life. Things were just very difficult on all fronts, economic, spiritual, money, relationship, everything, and decided that I had to make a real change in myself and a real change in my business, that things turned around. The very first thing I decided to do, one, was to get paid 100% for the work I was already doing. That changed everything for me in my life and my business. The second thing, we decided as a family that we were going to get rid of our debt completely. We still owed, I think, $150,000 at that point, maybe $160,000, but I think it was about $150,000. And we just decided to get it gone. So we lived on absolutely nothing. I think we lived on maybe $30,000 that year, $34,000, something like that. But we got through that debt as quickly as humanly possible. And the only way that was possible is because we dealt with it head on as a family. We made a decision that we were going to get rid of it, and we worked like animals. I mean, like animals to get it done. We didn't go anywhere. My alma mater played at Nebraska that year in football, and I really wanted to go, but I couldn't go because we were paying off debt. There were all of these things that we really wanted to do, and we made tremendous sacrifices in order to get that gone, and we did within a year. It was the most amazing experience that I think I've ever had. I still have no idea how the numbers worked out to be able to do that, but I can tell you that last check that I wrote for the student loans, there was one last one. I think it was, what was it? $40,000. I got a $40,000 student loan, and I was going to break it up. We were going to break it up into 4 different payments over 4 months or 3 months, something like that. And somehow at the end of the year, we just had everybody pay, and I decided that we were going to get this thing paid off. So I just paid, I think, $40,000 at the end. And that was a big, big risk. It was a big leap of faith for me because it left us completely dry. Absolutely no money. But the thought of having all of that debt gone was such an amazing emotional release for me, just the thought of it, and spiritual release that we paid that debt off. And it all worked out. It was great. And from that day on, we haven't incurred debt. We paid off our house. We got all of this gone, and it has changed the way we function because it has given us tremendous opportunities. I can invest more in the business now. We can go places as a family. We just have way, way more opportunities to do things than when we had $100,000, $200,000 in student loan debt, and then the house debt, which was another, $300,000 on top of that. I mean, we were absolutely swimming in debt in 2015. But that all changes. But the only way you can make that change is by changing completely your behavior and changing the way you look at your debt. It's not something to play with. It's something to excise from your life like it was a cancer. So get rid of it as much as possible. And here's the other thing too. If you own a law firm, I see a lot of attorneys do this. They'll take out student loan debt and then they complain about that. They have a house debt and they complain about that. And then they voluntarily go take out a whole bunch of debt in order to try to grow their business through marketing or advertising. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Find another way. Pay yourself less money. Market that way. Use social media. Market for free. Do whatever you have to, but do not incur large amounts of debt, because you already have gone down this road. You already know how terrible it is. Don't start doing more and more of it and adding to that big rock on your back, because that is not the way to succeed. Get that off of your back, excise it from your life, excise it emotionally, excise it spiritually, move on, get rid of your debt. You will never, ever regret it. Thanks, everyone.